and I got with me today. Let's see who we got today. We got Chris Wallace, we've got Chuck Davison, Lyle Stokes, and Rustin. And I don't know what his last name is, but I'll figure out before the show's over. Anyway, um, today we're going to hit the topic of conservation, and Lyle's got something he really needs to get out there, and it needs to be addressed pretty quickly. Go ahead, Lyle. Hey, Lyle. We can't hear you. Ain't that special?
Is that better?
There you go.
Is that better?
Here.
Missouri passed, the Department of Natural Resources in the state of Missouri passed some regulations, and it's been going on for about a year with slot limit and length limits on Lake the Ozarks and Truman Lake, and this is a stepping stone for what needs to be done on our rivers and stuff. And there's one small group of very few people in southwest Missouri that's tried to stop this, and they've been shut down every time. Well, they've contacted their state representative to bring it up so that they can get this halted, even though everybody thinks that it's the right thing to do. They're trying to get it ceased for some reason or another. And right now what we need is for everybody to click on my Facebook page or Twisted Cat Outdoors Facebook page and go to the link where there's a caption for the bill that she's trying to pass, and contact your state representatives and tell them that you want the length limit and the slot limit fish, that needs to be done. They're under the assumption that it doesn't, and it does. There's been years of studies done to prove the fact that this needs to be taken care of, and we just need to get it stopped before it goes any further. This law is supposed to take effect March 1st, and we're just trying to make sure that it does, in fact, go into effect.
All right.
You would say, well, anybody from any state could help you out, right?
Well, at this time, just Missouri residents. The bill hasn't been assigned to a committee yet, and once it's assigned to the committee, then anyone can do it, and I'll have that posted up as soon as they assign it to a committee, which should be in the next few days.
Okay.
And all out-of-state people, we appreciate all the help, because we're all in this together. The same as when the people in Indiana or Ohio or Kentucky, when they're trying to get their regulations done, we all pitch in to help them, and that's what we need to make sure that we get this taken care of here also.
Lyle, I picked up an article here off of the Illinois Department of Conservation. I want to just hit it real quick. We was talking about how long it takes a trophy catfish to get to its size. And the Illinois DNR website says, in comparison to most other game fish species, catfish, especially blues and flatheads, are extremely long-lived and slow-growing. Blues and flatheads can easily live 30 years with weights approaching or even exceeding 100 pounds. Due to the high fishing pressure and angler harvest, the numbers of blue catfish, this was in Missouri, in Truman and Lake Ozarks, and has steadily declined since the 1990s. So a 15-year-old blue catfish that's 31 inches today, that's a pretty old fish.
Yeah, they've done a lot of studies. In fact, a few years ago when they was doing these studies, I actually lived in Springfield, and we helped them do that study, and we recorded fish and what we caught, when we caught them, how many we caught each day, and it was a real intensive thing. And a 25, 30-pound fish is 30 years old at the very least, because they don't have the growing power or the food sources or nutrition or whatever that some of the river systems have got. And if you take a 30-pound fish, it's just it's in the mid range of its breeding life, because they'll breed till the end of time. And when you take a fish out that's going to have 250, 300,000 eggs, there's only about 10% of them survive to start with, and once they hatch, then about 1% of them survive. So if you take all the breeding size fish out there, it's not too long to where you don't have anything but small fish left.
Right.
And not all, I mean, like humans, not every blue is going to become a giant. So, you know, when you take those big fish out, you're taking them big fish genes along with them.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And the slot limit is basically going to be between 8 and 16 pounds, and that's about the time on the lower end, about the time when the blues start breeding and they're mature enough to know where to lay their eggs and keep the other fish from coming in eating them up and stuff. And you get the small ones; they're not smart enough to realize where to lay those eggs to keep scavengers from getting them. So at that point, they're big enough to defend the nest and different things. So it's real important. And if we can get this done and keep it intact down there, they do some studies. I know that they're doing studies on the Missouri and the Mississippi River now, and hopefully we can get something in place there and get some of the same regulations put into effect there, as we are needing them really bad due to the overharvest of the fish out of the rivers also.
I think Rustin told me something today about some boys up in Iowa.
Yeah, there was. I don't remember who. One of the Iowa boys posted on Facebook from the Iowa DNR's Facebook page. They caught. There's 4 or 5 guys up there that they busted for taking out several channel cats, and you know they wasn't out there looking for them. They was doing some other study or something, and they ended up busting them. It ended up in. I think it averaged about $3,500 to $4,000 fine per person, along with I think what did I tell you? $54, $55 per fish per person. So they nailed them pretty good. They're not messing around as far as taking fish. The whole thing was, it wasn't that they I guess one of them had their commercial fishing license, the other ones didn't. And there was something in there about taking illegal fish by illegal methods out of illegal waters. I mean, they were pretty specific in their description and everything there, and you know they're coming down hard on people for that.
Well, and that's one thing that I've said about the new regulations passed on Lake the Ozarks and Truman. This small group of people, to my knowledge, is 10 or under, that are raising so much stink over these new regulations. They keep saying, well, we're going to do it anyhow, and they have to make the fine substantial enough, make sure they catch a percentage of these people that are doing it, make the fine substantial enough that they don't want no part of it the second go around. And that's how you stop it.
If I could catch them corner dogs, I'd go down there and record them all day long.
Well, and that's like the guys that are coming in from Ohio and Indiana and going to the Mississippi River and going to these wintering holes for these blue cats and taking them to these pay lakes and stuff. You know, if I catch them down there, I'll videotape them and then I'll send it directly to the Department of Conservation and say, okay, boys, this is what I'm telling you is going on, and this is what we need to get stopped. When they're taking 5, 6, 8,000 pounds of fish out of a spot a day, they just go in there until they clean it out. And with the electronics and equipment with technology we have these days, they can go in there and they'll find them fish and they'll clean the spot out in just a couple of trips.
Yeah, I would say that everybody that fishes for catfish should have, most of the time, there's 1 or 2 specific DNR guys that are going to be in an area. If you get that guy's number, most of the time, that guy's going to be real understanding, and he's going to, if he finds out anybody's breaking any sort of law and you let him know about it, he'll probably be there pretty quick. So it's always a good idea to have that number. And if you see something that you find fishy, because it's going to be very, very difficult in any time in the future for any regulations that do get pushed in, for them to actually go in and actually see it being done, anything, and to catch them guys and regulate it and actually uphold that new law. So it's going to be on us as well to get a hold of DNR when we see something and let them know and get them out there as soon as possible. So
that's correct, because it does no good to have the laws that are not enforced.
It was a big stink over here not too long ago. People calling the DNR up here because people were using goldfish for bait. I don't know whatever happened with that. But I
If you
think it
call
was
if you
these
call a
late.
guy, he should know. You know, if it's illegal, he'll tell you right away. He'll know pretty much. If he doesn't know, he'll find out real quick.
I mean, that all rolls in with the conservation and stuff. You know, keeping keeping other like the zebra mussel and different stuff like that from going from water to water.
Well, I'll tell you something that really was amazing to me. Last year, we went up and fished the Cat's Incredible tournament up in North Dakota, and wonderful tournament, good place to go, and a lot of fine people. But they had some rules and stuff up there that I was not familiar with, and if it hadn't been for some of the nice people up there letting me know, I would have probably been in violation. One thing is you can't go in there and with the plug in your boat. You have to remove that plug before that boat leaves the boat ramp. And that keeps all that stuff from being transferred from one body of water to another, which I personally think that's a good deal. And then you're not allowed to bring fish in from other waters for bait or anything. You have to use local type stuff. And a lot of the things I wasn't aware of. It changes from state to state, and people really need to keep up to date when they're traveling to tournaments and just going out fun fishing in different areas to make sure that they're not in violation of some of the state laws.
So Chuck, you've been kind of quiet. We're gonna
Yeah,
make you talk now.
when these different regulations, when they get to the committee and they have hearings, um, people from other states can come in and be a real big influence. When we had ours here in '06, Bill Dance came in. Tennessee had already went through their regulations. Alabama was some guys from up north were trying to model what Tennessee was setting and stuff. Bill Dance came down and sat in the hearing in Montgomery and was a big influence on having our regulations changed. And he's not from Alabama. First, commercial guys, some of them were for it, and some of them were against it. And then after they sat through the hearings and got a little bit educated on the importance of the big catfish, all the commercial guys kind of changed their whole tone before the whole hearing was over. Nobody was fighting it by the end because a lot of them guys didn't even know, taking these big fish out is going to hurt them later on in the commercial industry.
Yeah. Well, you got so much that goes in with the conservation. You've got habitat, keeping the rivers and stuff clean. I don't know about you guys, but I always pick up stuff. Sometimes I'll end up with half a boat of crap, and that's just from one day of fishing, and it ain't mine. I didn't haul it in there, but.
And it's sad, but if that's the way it has to be, or the banks, the rivers, everything just get overrun with just trash and crap and bottles. And it's bad enough when the flood situation comes in that you got to deal with everything gets washed down, but people just throwing stuff out of their boat at will, that's something else altogether.
Back when I was younger, I used to find logs and stuff next to the river and stuff, and that's when I was fishing in Columbia there off of Percy Creek. And I'd roll a bunch of logs up there and stack them up in the water, and I always had fish.
I think one of the things that for almost any body of water, I think as far as regulations go, one of the things that I think would help a lot is if they did something even on the time of year type of thing, because this time of year in cold weather, these commercial fishermen will go and target these holes, these deep holes where blues will stack up for miles on end down the river. So you might have 30 blues in one hole, and they'll come in and hit that hole with their nets in the wintertime and completely wipe out 20 miles of river or something of blues. So if we did something as far as letting it so they couldn't even take catfish during certain months, that's another thing I think would help out. I know that it's been discussed, and I think that would be a big thing if we could ever get that done.
Well, that's very true. The other thing is if we can get these 34-inch rules and the slot limit regulations put in effect on the rivers, most of the commercial guys are not going to spend their time going out there to take two fish over 34 inches a day. You know,
Yeah, especially if
they're
we can't bring them over to Illinois, they'll really be screwed.
yeah, but you know, it'll kind of take care of itself, and that'll stop a lot of these guys from out in your neck of the woods coming over to Mississippi and trying to get these giants out to put in pay lakes, because it'll just cost them too much money to come that far for 2 fish per day. And believe me, they're coming to the Mississippi River to get them too. It's not just the Ohio. You know, I've noticed that people think that the Ohio River is the only place that they're getting them fish out for the pay lakes. They're coming over to the Mississippi and they're raping us just the same as they are you guys.
Oh, anywhere they can get them, and then they have thousands of nets out, and
That's right.
they get so many fish, but it's only because they have so many nets out, and then they use the argument that, you know, how are they catching so many big fish if they're depleting the stock, you know? And the point is yeah, there's a lot of big fish out there, but if you're taking that many out and you're having to travel further and further away to get that many, you're not, that stock isn't there. The reason you're traveling farther is because they're not there as much anymore.
That's right, they're gone. And the other thing is, right now, the Illinois DNR is in such sad financial shape that they have all these commercial guys over there on a honor system thing. So they just fill out their paper and say how many fish they caught. Nobody's checking them to see if that's a true amount or not, because their funding is so low. So if they take out 100 big fish in one day and they only write down 4, they're getting away with it because nobody's checking their paperwork to see if they're actually turning in what they say they're turning in. And that doesn't just affect Illinois; it affects Missouri and Iowa and Arkansas and Tennessee and every place that contributes into them, because them blues move a great amounts of distance every year.
Yeah, it's completely the honor system, the way they have it set up, and I wouldn't call them guys very honorable.
No, me either.
We are 15 minutes in, and I'm going to take a little commercial break here. Not really commercial break, but I want to announce something, and this is for everybody that watches the videos. I'm going to do a giveaway, and that giveaway is going to be for 450 Classics XT Akuma. Still looks backwards to me when I look at it, but anyway, the giveaway is you need to watch all the weekly videos each month. From the first one to the last one of that month, you must have them all. You're going to grab the code that's embedded somewhere in the video and email it to Paul Ragsdale at catfishweekly.com, and then I will give you a key. Each key is unique. Write it down. If you don't, that's on you. 3, the announcement will be made on the first live video of the month, so you need to email me your keys if you're chosen. If the winner doesn't send the keys within 24 hours, another name will be called, and they will need to send me their keys. So this is the first one. Anybody from my team, Team Fat Boyz, and from the Catfish Weekly is not eligible. So that's the key, the code, and I'll post that on the video later on as well. And then all you have to do is send me an email to what that was, and I'll send you a key. So with that being said, that's going to be the first giveaway.
And we're working on our website. That'll probably be available. Our videos will all be available on the website when we're finished with that, right?
Yeah, that's a cluster.
Oh, not right now, but it will be at some point.
We will have it. But you know, you have to watch the videos. If there's 4 weeks of videos that month, I got to have 4 codes, and then I'm gonna give you 4 keys. And when I pick you and I ask you, you better have all 4 of them. So with that, let's get back into conservation.
Leonard Heisey asked a question to us.
Oh, I just seen that. Do you think local fishing could be the problem, as well as noodling being so popular? Anyone want to jump in on that one?
Well, I will jump in on the noodling. That is definitely a problem, and the state of Missouri done a trial period on that a few years ago, and they only allowed it for 1 year, and the results was devastating because the fish that they're noodling, they've taken them off of the nest when they're doing that, and those fish not only lose that amount, none of the people ever throw those fish back, but even if they did throw the fish back, they won't go back to that nest, and they lose that whole harvest of eggs because once they're pulled off that nest, they just won't go back and support it. So, they tried that for 1 year, and it's now again illegal. And I'm sure that's a fun way to do it, but you're losing not only the fish that you're taking out of the water, you're losing every harvest from that point on off of those fish from now on. So, that's a devastating deal on flatheads, especially.
Okay, and I think part of that, just so you know, there's some people out there that will rip you a new ass, and that's just being honest. If you bring up noodling and stuff, and what I try to do, all these guys in here, I don't know about Rustin, but and my team members, we talk to them like they're human beings. We try to take the nice approach to it. Lyle did that with me after I was tore up, and it made a believer because he explained things to me, and I think that's the way to approach it.
I think I can touch on a couple things. I think for local fishing, as far as tournaments and just regular fishermen, I've told a lot of people my belief is that, the catfish anglers have done pretty well at keeping live, updating live wells. We put a lot of money into the type of live well that we have for tournament fishing. A lot of the guys that I've hardly seen out of this last year fishing the ICA with 30 boats a tournament. I think I've seen a couple of dead fish. I don't think that it's nearly the problem that the commercial fishermen will try to lead you to believe. I do believe that any foul hooked fish, any fish that's been stressed too hard, it might not recover. I know there is a loss in tournament fishing, that there is loss in fish there. I'm not going to say that tournament fishing has no death in catfish. There is there. Is it a huge problem? I don't think so. Like I said, I think a lot of the guys really put a lot of time and energy and money into their live wells to make sure that I've seen a lot of my fish that go back into the water healthier than they were. I put a lot of oxygen in there. I make sure my water's cool. I try to do really good to take care of them fish and make them be just as healthy. There's been a few times where they're sluggish, but they're pretty good. They're healthy when I put them back in. I don't think I lost a fish this year at all, and that's a lot with a lot of the guys that I think fish the ICA. From what I've seen in large tournaments, you just don't see a lot of dead fish. But I do know it happens with foul hooks, things like that. As far as the noodling, I don't like to lump anybody into one big bad group of people. I've actually heard of some noodlers. I don't know a lot about it, but I've heard of some noodlers that do enjoy pulling the fish out, but they actually take that fish, put it right back in that hole. I don't know if that fish will stay in that hole after that or what happens, but if it does work that way, I guess I wouldn't have a problem with it. But I don't like them pulling them off of that nest, But it's not everybody has to be okay with everybody else's type of fish. I don't jug fish, but I know criticize it. So.
Right. Rustin, how do you deal with people that you take out?
Well, it's kind of the same way. Lyle and I talked for a couple hours a couple nights ago, and And we touched base on that. I see a lot of people over here at KC Catfish, and there's a couple Facebook pages yelling and screaming at people for, the whole pay lake thing and the commercial fishing, and you can't do that. I know, working corrections, working the jail downtown Kansas City, with the inmates, it's kind of the same thing. I start yelling and screaming at them, they're not going to listen. It's the exact same thing. And Paul, you and I talked about that, about when you used to live over here. You can't go yelling and screaming at people, because that doesn't, if I start yelling at Lyle over, say he's making me a custom rod, he's just going to quit. You can't yell at people and get your point across. And I'm not saying that I'm innocent as far as that. I've gotten in a couple of heated debates, but when it comes down to you've got to be polite, and you've got to explain to people. When I started using circle hooks and stuff, I was kind of stuck on the Kale hook there. I really liked that, and I had a guy just scream me up one side of the tree and down the other about, foul hooking fish, got to use the circles. And after doing some playing around with it, I noticed, I wasn't getting belly hooks. They was pretty nice and in the mouth, pretty consistent hooks, and I didn't have that. And it took several different people to come at me with a different approach, saying, hey, you ought to think about it this way, or here, take a couple of my hooks and go try them. Then I started listening. Is touching base on the noodling deal. I used to noodle. I'm not going to lie. I used to be big into noodling. I don't do it anymore. It was a family thing, and shoot, it goes back to my great-great-great-grandma and grandpa noodling on the Mississippi River and South Grand River down here about Clinton and stuff. And I don't really agree with it. Now, Kansas, they allow noodling. The Kaw River up here, Kansas River, depends on where you're from, what you call it. They allow noodling out there. There was somebody on the BOC that mentioned that there. Well, I think it was last week or so about guiding noodling trips, and a whole lot of guys, they jumped right on him real hard, and I'm not gonna touch base on all the comments, but everybody hopped on him pretty hard, but that might not have been the right thing to do there, but
anybody that's a man that's got a pair, if somebody comes off yelling and screaming at me, if they're toe to toe, they're probably going to pick their teeth off the sidewalk. And if it's on the internet, about all I can do is keyboard Rambo stuff. But you come off of me, man, I'm just going to blow you off and not listen to you.
Yeah.
And that's where Lyle brought me in and talked to me. Big Dave talked to me about the conservation stuff. I had a big blow up one day when I said CPR, catch, photo, refrigerate. Some of these guys ain't got a sense of humor. And I caught hell.
Anytime you attack somebody, that's all they're going to do is get defensive. I mean, if your goal is to get them to not do it, then by attacking them, you're not doing anything to help your own cause. You're just going to cause them to dig in harder on you.
Lyle and Dave worked with me, and then I turned two for sure. One I'm kind of wondering about now, but so I kind of mentioned to Lyle about having 3 people that I've helped, so he's helped 4 people. And I go, well, if I only worked with you or whatever, I can't remember the whole conversation, but I was like, yeah, but I wouldn't have got that 3 if you wouldn't have got me.
Education is all you can do. Is you can educate somebody and leave it to them to make what they're going to do with that education and that knowledge. And Rustin, how would you describe what made you stop noodling?
Well, I went out with some people over here in Kansas that I used to be friends with, and and these are guys, they're in their 70s and 80s, and they've noodled over here on our side of the state line, and just listening to some of the stories, like one I can touch base on. I mean, you guys, you wouldn't be familiar with it, but South Grand River, it dumps into Truman down there, and little town called Urick right outside Clinton, they always used to talk about this big old flathead that was underneath the boat ramp, and I can't remember poundage. He was somewhere in the 80s. He's a big old male, and they caught wind of that story, went down there, noodled him out, and they put him back. And several other guys that went down there and tried to get him, and he was gone. He had the same female. Somebody made they took a cattle tag, ear tag, and they cut it down to make it, real small. And they tagged both these fish, and they would always find this male and female in the same hole. And they were always right under the boat ramp. I don't remember if it was an old culvert now or what it was, but they noodled that big flathead, that big male out of there, and he never came back. They turned him back in. I physically watched him turn it back in, and he was out maybe 3 to 5 minutes tops. They took a bunch of pictures and then put him right back in. A couple other guys went down, a couple weeks later, and the fish was gone. They caught the female out of there, but the male was gone. They'd gone down several times since then, and they've set lines out there trying to get him, and he's gone. So that really, like you all said earlier, touching base on the females, yes, they're not going to go back to their nest. It's kind of like a mama bird. You touch the baby, she ain't going to go take care of it. After watching that, I think the males are the same way. If I go into a house and it's haunted or whatever, guess what? I ain't going back in that house again. It's the same way. You go disturbing them, whether it's a nest, a hole, a box, a rail car like they have up on the Des Moines River. You go pulling them out of there, they're gonna get smart. They're just like any other animal out there. You do something long enough to it, it's gonna learn. Hey, I'm not gonna go in there. And I really do think it ruins the fishery. They haven't caught the female out of there either. Now, whether someone took her out or what happened to her, but I don't know the story there. But I know it's a big deal. I've got some family down in Oklahoma, and they have the national championships noodling down on Lake Eufaula down there, and they're real big into that. But you look at their population of flatheads versus there's a lake up here in Kansas that they don't noodle on. It's ridiculous, the population density up here versus down there. Not saying they don't have good fish down there, because they do. You see them pulled out that video, Girls Gone Grabbling or wherever. They pull some big fish out of there, but it's not the same. And I really think it does hurt them whether you're keeping the fish or not. It goes back a long time. The Indians used to do it. That was how they provided food. They didn't have Garcia 7000s or Shimano Dakotas back then. They hand fished them with spears and stuff, but we also used to have 200 to 350 pound blue cats in the Missouri River too. And the biggest one I know of here would be that one that Brad Kilpatrick and Rob Stanley caught out there. That 1028. That's a good fish, but it ain't one of them ones like it used to be before commercial fishing and just everybody got into it, and it really hurts the population. I firmly believe that. Whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, I do think it hurts the population.
Now, since you got so much family and stuff that's been doing it for so long, you got lots of guys, in your family with missing digits and things like that from turtles down there.
Yeah, I remember my great-grandpa Nelson was telling me about that. I don't remember if it was a childhood friend or who it was that went down, and I don't remember if it was a snapping turtle, or I don't know if it was common or alligator, but they went down one day, and he reached down. He's like, man, what if and he looked at my great-grandpa and said, what if I grab a turtle? Oh, don't worry, they always go in head first, you'll feel the tail. Well, apparently that turtle was different than any other turtle out there, and he was tail first in the hole, and he ended up missing some digits. But I guess that's just part of it, part of the sport, the rush. You don't know what you're going to find. I don't personally think it's worth that anymore. I've seen the stuff that comes out of the Kansas River, and I don't even like reaching down in it because mainly water quality there, but you never know what's in there,
Yeah.
But
Wow.
Well,
I think we're at 7:33, and I think we're getting ready to come to a close. And
we just got another question.
Good.
Okay, not a question, more of a statement. Thanks, Doc.
I'm not seeing this stuff.
Neither am I.
You got to have your question and answer side panel open.
Oh,
Oh, there, I see it. Join the show tonight. Keep it up. You're doing a great job, Doc. I appreciate it, Doc. I'm trying to do something positive, and I'm hoping that this kind of grows, and we can bring the newer um, anglers in as well as the older guys too. So I appreciate it, Doc.
Doc definitely be somebody that we would probably enjoy having on this and talking to him, a man of a lot of knowledge, very willing to share it, very, very good guy.
he also has one of the greatest information websites on the internet.
He does.
It's just loaded with knowledge of years of fishing and stuff, and it's just a great website for anybody that wants to. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or a seasoned veteran in the fishing industry. His website has more good information than any place that I'm aware of.
And if you ever talk to the man himself, he will give you any information you ask him. He doesn't hide anything.
Where do you hide your wallet?
He is one of the.
Yeah, Doc and Lynn are two of the most outstanding people that you ever want to meet or be around. They're just top notch folks.
I agree.
That's all there is to
I know where Chuck's wallet is. Leanne's got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Rustin, what do you do now?
What'd you say?
I said, what do you do now?
Well, I'm actually fortunate enough that I had some issues up there at the jail and didn't agree with some stuff, so I decided to be Mr. Mom and stay home with my daughter. You know, I worked a lot of overtime there in her first 6 months and wasn't around her a whole lot. I worked, night shift, so I get to stay home with her and
all I got to say is if you start breastfeeding, I don't want to hear about it.
No, not going that far.
I want to remind everybody too that next week, it's mainly been Saturdays for all this time, and we're gearing up for tournament season. And with that, Saturdays are going to be hectic for the panel here and whatnot, and we're going to start doing them next weekend, Sunday at 6:30. I think that's what we agreed on, wasn't it, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, so they'll be from Sunday clear into the last tournament, and then we'll figure out from there. So, Lyle,
Yeah.
you wanna go over the first? Let's go ahead and get it out ahead of time. The first tournament.
The first tournament for Twisted Cat Outdoors will be February 22nd at Columbia Bottoms, St. Louis, Missouri, providing the weather is good. Right now, that's touch and go with all the ice and stuff coming on, but should be a good turnout. We usually have a big crowd down there. Should be 30, 40 boats. Should be some good fish. They've been catching fish down there when they get out. It's just it's going to be weather dependent at this particular time. That's kind of up in the air, but that's when it's scheduled. The launch will be 7 o'clock. Weigh in and start at 3. And looking forward to seeing everybody down there.
All right, we'll give everybody 2 minutes to close out what they want to say. And since Chris is my first one here, go ahead, Chris.
I guess I'd talk about the ICA tournaments coming up. The first one for the ICA is going to be an open at Mount Carmel, Illinois, at the City Ranch, and that's going to be on March 1st. So anybody can join that. It's an open tournament. It's starting at 7:30, so you probably want to be there by 7 o'clock at the latest. After that, then the next tournament they're going to have is the March 15th Turtle Creek Open, which is normally 100+ boats with 10 fish limit and normally no fish bigger than 4 pounds. So it's a pretty interesting tournament. That's all I got.
All right, and Chuck.
I'd like to go over jigging winter flatheads. What do y'all think about the damage that could be done to a flathead if you're pulling it off the dormant stage, by teasing it and jigging it out, lower 30-degree water. You won't be able to make them bite, but you're taking them out of the water. Even if you release them, do y'all really think that does damage to the fish? Pulling it off bottom in a dormant state like that, photoing it and letting it go. I know the commercial guys are doing a lot of the jigging up there, selling them to the pay lakes. I've heard that they're, jigging large flatheads out of the rivers up there. But, I mean, even doing it recreational, have y'all heard that that it stresses the fish or anything like that?
That's something I'm not familiar with at all.
I don't think it does. That was something that was turned on to me. I can't remember if it was Philip or I think it was Johnny Coleman that was telling me about that when I first moved up to Des Moines there, jigging for flatheads. I know a lot of guys, say they're jigging, but they're snagging them, and we caught quite a few flatheads below Saylorville, and just a white swirly 2-inch grub there. And I remember one fish, he was missing one of his pectoral fins. I can't remember which one, then half of his tail. And I caught that same fish, I bet, 15, 20 times within the same month. And he just kept getting fatter and fatter. So I don't think it really hurts him. It's no different than pulling crappie or bass or channel cats or blues. I don't think it's any different,
The videos I've seen, I don't know a lot about it like Lyle either, but I've seen some videos where they've dragged live bait, they've dragged jigs across these hurdles of dormant flatheads, and they put them baits and things right on their lips, and you could not get them to bite. So I guess there's so many of them down there that none of them are really eating. I don't know if they're really pulling out any numbers or at all, catching them without, like Rustin said, actually just snagging them.
Yeah, I'm highly against the snagging. I promise you we wasn't snagging. I know I can't remember the conservation agent's name up there in Polk County, but I did a lot of work with him catching those snaggers and stuff up there because they knew what he did.
A lot of guys out of Polk County.
And yeah, we had a lot too. But yeah, we did a lot of work with him up there catching a lot of the snaggers, and it wasn't easy by no means. Jigging for flatheads is no easy task, but there's somebody on Catfish 1 that runs nothing but artificial baits out of those little float tubes, and he catches flatheads like crazy. It's not impossible, but it's no easy task, and every one that we caught, most of them, they were hooked pretty far back in the mouth, so it's not like, that hook just barely got them on their jaw. They actually took it. We didn't catch 500-600 fish by no means, but it was definitely better than walleye fishing.
Okay, Lyle, you want to wrap yours up?
Yep, just looking forward to a great tournament season this year with everybody coming in, and we got the first two will be at Columbia Bottoms in St. Louis, and hope everybody can make it out.
All right, and I think that already lets you clear out there, Rustin.
I don't have anything. I take that back. One thing I do have. Lyle, what we was talking about the other night when I told you several people had asked me how to look up your tournament schedule, you might kind of touch base on that a little bit. I had a couple more questions today about that.
Okay, the reason that you have to sign up to get on the Twisted Cat Outdoor website is simply because the spammers that we get are 30, 40, 50 a day, and they're from out of the country, and we check every IP address so members don't get spammed and different things, but it's free. It doesn't cost anything. Just go to twistedcatoutdoors.com and sign up. We approve everybody that has a United States website address or an IP address. but we just get slammed with spammers. The economy, I guess, is so bad everywhere that everybody's trying to get an inlet, and
Unless
we're
it's
just trying to. Yeah, we're just trying to prevent that from being on there. So we check everyone and approve everybody, and we'd love to
make sure
have
they're
some more
not a
members.
butthole surfer.
What's that?
Make sure they're not a butthole surfer. A
Yeah,
known
because
IP address.
there's nothing worse than trying to search through 1,800 members on the website and figure out which one's sending everybody a bunch of spam. So if we can nip it in the bud and stop it before it gets started, that's the only reason. Like I say, we used to let everybody in and didn't do that, but the spam got so bad we had to stop it. And we approve everybody. It's free. There's no cost ever to any member. So jump right on there and get involved.
We me and Chris, we've been working close on the Catfish Weekly website, and we may add a spot for some anglers and stuff. But I'm going to close mine up. I'm going to say, guys, don't forget to send me an email the code that I gave you today for the giveaway. I'm going to, being that Chris and I are working on the website, I'm going to go ahead and post it over there in contest, if that's okay with Lyle.
Absolutely.
And if you click on the little YouTube icon, you can see the links and stuff that I post below that until we get the website 100% up and running. And with that, I want to say adios. I appreciate the 5 viewers that we got watching right now. That's the most we've ever had. And we're averaging 140 views in a 24-hour period. So we're not doing too bad for growing. So with that, I'm going to say happy trails, and we look forward to seeing you next time.